Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal are back, but we talked about that already. Let's look at the newcomers. The head coach, the starting point guard, and the first-round pick. We're giving out grades. How have the players and coach helped the team, and what could the rest of the season look like for the three newcomers coming up? Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back in to Locked On Suns. I'm Brendon Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen to kick off your Tuesday, a game day. Don't forget, Locked On Suns free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button. Do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer and get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Today's episode, guys, is brought to you by Built Rewards. Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba. That's joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba. Joining me, as always, from the wonderful West Valley, my fellow Suns credentialed media member. How are we feeling on this Tuesday, Ben Garcia?
TBD until 11:30 Tuesday night. If we beat the Lakers, I'll be doing a lot better. I love beating up on them, but until then, I'm just fine. I could be a lot better, though, with a win. Could be a lot better, though.
Yeah, big game coming up, and we will have coverage of it. We previewed the week that is upcoming for the Suns in yesterday's episode. We talked a little bit about the returns from injury. Both Beal and Durant are probable, so that is all tracking in the right direction. Very, very good news. But we're going to zoom out a little bit on today's show. Get you ready for the games with a little bit more of a big picture show. And we're going to grade all of the big Suns newcomers. So heading into the season, we knew what the big changes were going to be. The Suns kept their draft pick. They draft Ryan Dunn, of course, Oso Ighodaro as well. Hire a new head coach, Mike Budenholzer in, Frank Vogel out, and they solved that point guard question by bringing in Tyus Jones. So today we're going to answer, how are those guys actually doing at their jobs, and are they really doing what the Suns needed of them? So let's start with Mike Budenholzer. And, I mean, I'm going to try to, hold him to the same standard I did when we all were excited about him coming here. And when I look at it from that standpoint, I look at shooting threes, I look at pace, I look at defense, all the things that we kind of wanted to see improve. The injuries make it hard, but I feel like this team has a legitimate identity that you can bank on. And before the injuries, we were feeling pretty good. So to me, Mike Budenholzer is off to a great start, bringing the change he needed to the Valley.
Yeah, if we were giving these guys letter grades, and I know we will.
I was going to say, don't blow yours yet.
Yeah,
we got to build up here.
Well, I'm just saying, Budenholzer has been, I thought, phenomenal. And you mentioned a lot of the X's and O's aspect of this, and that's fine. I'll leave that to you. What I really like about Budenholzer is he's just a leader, and I have not seen the same kind of energy that I saw last year with Frank Vogel and the bickering or people, giving him the cold shoulder or just blatantly not respecting him, especially after games where players were not even taking the guy seriously. That's what I really wanted to see in Budenholzer, which there's other things, right? Like I could talk about the fact that there was a game plan and he is stuck into it, like to a degree where I'm like, what are you doing? But last year, I kept on questioning what in the world Frank Vogel is doing. I'm not questioning what Budenholzer is doing. I'm more so just questioning, could you do it a little bit differently this way? Which I'm not the, NBA Finals winning head coach, so what do I know? But Vogel was doing things like the substitutions were weird, the patterns were weird, the offense was strange, using Kevin Durant as a decoy most of the time. Budenholzer just came in with a firm plan and a leadership, and that is what I wanted to see more so than anything, because I just think that if you're going to have a Kerr or a Spoelstra or a Popovich, a coach like that, you can grade them a little differently with the X's and O stuff. But outside of that, I just need to see someone be a leader, take control of this team. And he's absolutely done that to a point where I was kind of surprised. I'm like, oh man, This guy doesn't take any bleep from anyone, but that's where I would go with Budenholzer.
So the Suns are 6th in three-point frequency so far this season. There are a couple of other things that Bud teams have kind of always done, which is that they don't allow teams to take corner threes. They're able to basically wall off the paint and the corners, and the Suns have been very, very good at doing that. So only 8% of their opponent's shots are from corner threes, which is really good. That's like the most efficient shot in basketball. If you're able to not even let teams take those, you're really going to put yourself in a good position. And they're also top 5 in limiting shots at the rim. And that's obviously, whether you're looking at Brook Lopez or whatever else, been a huge tenet of what Bud wants to do. And frankly, to do that, even with Nurk being so up and down, is really impressive. You're talking about games with Oso in there. You're talking about a lot of Mason Plumlee. Early in the season, you're talking about, small ball quite a bit and everything else. To have that stuff hold is really, really impressive. And we also talked about that game against Minnesota. He's tried stuff already, right? I mean, whether it's starting Ryan Dunn and just letting that kind of happen, and the small ball pulling Nurkic in the first place, closing games small, even against a bigger Dallas team early in the season, and some of that stuff, to jumbo, big ball, we're going to play very unorthodox and try to steal a win, and very nearly did steal a win until the refs stole it back in Minnesota, right? So there's been so many little moments like that from a game plan and a scheme and a lineup standpoint that I just think that, plus the big picture stuff looking like you wanted it to. I mean, we knew the Suns made a good call because Bud is like the one surefire coach, if you were going to fire Vogel, that you could have gotten. They got him, so I don't think anyone was doubting it. But still, I think, a quarter of the way through the season, or we're not even there yet, this already feels like, okay, coach is not even something that I need to worry about, at least until the postseason.
I would disagree with you that anyone doubted it, because I did. I didn't think firing Vogel for Budenholzer was going to make this much of a difference. This was also pre-Tyus Jones and pre-potentially Ryan Dunn, who we'll talk about a little bit, who's shown some flashes this year. I just thought it was going to be mostly a lot of the same thing, and it's not true at all. Everything just looks way more organized. And again, we'll get to those other two guys in a second, but I am kind of surprised that he did this. And, if I was like, I'll just do it now because it leads into what I want to say. But if I was giving him like that letter grade, it would be an A, but it would be like a 92%, because there's two things with his 3-point game plan, or I guess there's really one thing with his 3-point game plan that I was already skeptical of to start the season, which you were, and a lot of people were. I know we're 15 games in the season, 16, whatever it is. The Nurkic 3-ball thing, it ain't working. It is either going to be a 3-for-3 night or a 1-for-8 night, and those are very few and far in between. Like, this guy's really got to be feeling it, and most of the time, it usually doesn't matter, and I feel like the pressure of that helps Nurkic. That is the one thing that I would love to see the cord ripped on that. Now, I don't know what you do, but I'm also not the head coach. That is the one thing that he is stuck with that I'm like, listen, man, I'm a big Nurkic guy. I'm a big Nurkic defender. I wouldn't say I'm a big Nurkic guy. I'm a defender of his. The guy can't shoot threes, like, at all. And teams are leaving him open, and that is clogging up other things and stopping from other things being opened up in the offense. That's the only thing, though. Other than that, I think Budenholzer has been awesome. I'd give him a 92%. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go with, especially looking at it right now where we are, I think the part that I definitely didn't expect is that it would happen so fast. You know what I mean? That he would get the buy-in right now already is definitely a surprise for me. A lot of the elements of what we're talking about, I did believe in, and I was like, okay, Bud is a guy that I can get behind if you are going to move on from Vogel. But I wouldn't have thought, hey, everybody's going to get hurt. There's going to be a ton of close games, and yet all this stuff is going to click pretty instantaneously. So I'll give him an A+, honestly. I mean, I really struggle to come up. I mean, the Nurk thing is totally valid. I put that on Nurk. I think Nurk has just had an awful year. So you're right that was a big hype thing we all had, but I think the big man deserves the blame there, and I'll let the coach slide. For now, we'll see how he adapts and adjusts as the season continues, but A+ for me. All right, let's talk about Tyus Jones, who definitely was the other puzzle piece to get clicked into place to make this whole machine get going when they were able to steal him away in the offseason. How big of an impact has he had? What are we going to give Tyus as a grade? All that next. First, today's show brought to you by Built Rewards. With the seasons changing, I'm already dreaming of a warm weather getaway. Well, not really in Arizona. I'm dreaming of a cold weather getaway like in March or April when it already starts to warm up here. Whatever your travel plans are, I love using points for travel, and I'm always looking for ways to earn more to book my next flight. Here's a life hack for you. Built lets you earn points on rent payments and redeem them toward flights, hotels, and a lot more. One of your biggest investments should get you more than just a roof over your head. Let me explain. There's no cost to join Built, and as a member, you'll earn valuable points on rent and on your everyday spending. Built points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, and even the ones you haven't heard of. There are over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world where you can redeem your Built points. Points can also be redeemed towards a future rent payment and unique experiences that only Built members can access. So if you're not earning points on rent, my question is, why not? Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA. That's joinbilt.com/LockedOnNBA. Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you. That's joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA to start earning points on your rent payments today. Today's episode also brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for just that high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 per month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply for product-specific disclosure. Visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is available by Robinhood Gold, LLC. All right, Ben. Tyus Jones. First, sign up for the Locked On Suns daily newsletter, folks, if you haven't already. Click that link below. Type your email address in. Support the show. Get awesome Suns analysis and NBA analysis every day. Stay up to date with all of our episodes. And again, best of all, support the show. I was looking at our board bets, Ben, from before the season, and we had more or less than 6 assists per game for Tyus Jones. That kind of feels like a good spot to look at this through, a good lens to look at this through. He's at 6.9 so far this season. And we also had minutes per game for him. We had more or less than 25, and he's at 32, which that's a lot because of the injuries so far. But this guy has had a huge role for this team. And again, I feel pretty good about it.
I've felt really good about Tyus Jones. And again, we'll get into the grades in just a second, but I do feel a little half empty with it because he hasn't had everyone there to show off his true talents. He's been a better three-point shooter than I thought he would be. He's a very, very confident three-point shooter that it's just different to have that sort of confidence on a team that has championship aspirations, whereas the Wizards, it was, whatever. And then Tyus
38%
Jones,
from deep so far this season.
And then his floater game and his inside game has been so much better than I thought it was going to be. I didn't really fall for the stupid little Tyus Jones floater. Like that's his patented thing. It's been really good. And he has shown his ability, and this is with the guys being out, but him being the second scorer to Devin Booker, like the second option to Devin Booker on a lot of nights. I know they haven't won these games, but he's shown that he is diverse. He's willing to do a bunch of different things. And if he has to score the basketball, he can score the basketball. It's not going to be as efficient as everyone else. It's not going to come as easy like a Luka or a Booker or one of those peer scorers, but he's shown that he can do it. And credit, they should have won a couple of these games because of it, but that happens. And defensively, he gets hunted a decent amount of time defensively, but I felt like he's held his own decently. Like there are times that he's just going to give up stuff because he's still like he's a generous 6'1". I think he's more like 6 foot, barely. He gets bullied a decent amount, but he does hold his own. And that was the one thing that I really worried about, but it hasn't been that big of a factor, even on that 6-game winning streak. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, in addition to the stuff that I threw out there in terms of just how much he's been involved, you nailed it with what he's had to do since these injuries hit. In the 9 games to start the season before, I mean, first of all, we should just say he's played every game. I mean, that in and of itself has been much needed. In the 9 games before KD went down, Tyus took 10-plus shots only 3 times. In the 7 games without KD, and obviously like 5 of those are without Brad, Tyus has taken double-digit shots 5 times. So he has willingly stepped up, and it doesn't even look like, okay, I'm forcing it, I gotta get my shots up, and it's just this empty stat stuffing thing just to try to get one over on somebody. Like it is very legit. So I feel very good. The thing that I want to point out here, this is a weird one. Would you believe me if I said the Suns' offense has actually been better with Tyus Jones off the court statistically this year?
Even during that 5-game losing streak?
Well, I don't have it broken out, each game or anything.
I wouldn't believe
on
that.
The whole,
I wouldn't believe that. No.
It's narrow, but it's true. It's one of those statistical anomalies. I like to point those things out because it's just interesting to monitor. Why is that happening? What's to blame for it? I would think it is a ton of exactly what you just pointed out, which is that he's still been on the court even when Beal and Booker and Durant have not been. So, if we were to separate those games out, I'm sure it would be different. But a little interesting. And then offensive pace. This team, again, maybe it is skewed by this losing streak like you just mentioned. But even before that, I think we brought it up a few times on the show. They're 20th in that one category. So between Bud and Tyus, that was something we thought, well, surely they'll be up there. And they're better than last season, but he's been effective in, I think, different ways maybe than we thought. It hasn't been these cross-court, hit-ahead passes on every possession and playing Memphis Ja Morant ball. He's just been kind of getting it done more in the old-fashioned kind of Chris Paul way.
Well, I feel like, it's tough because I would agree with you on that it is kind of like the Chris Paul way of doing things. But I do feel like sometimes it's just hard. It's just hard, Brendon, because with these guys being off the court and not being there, it's hard for me to give a complete grade on Tyus Jones. Everyone's grades are going to be lower right now, including Booker, including everyone, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, with everyone not being on the floor together. But when he's on the floor, it's 2 separate grades. With Tyus Jones on the floor with everyone during that win streak, everyone's going to get A's. So then yes, an A+ guy. But with those guys off the court, he has had he's been bullied at times on defense. He's been asked to be the second scorer. That's not his strongest suit, although I think he's stepped up to that challenge. I think it's more like an 80. So if I average those 2 things out, he's a high B+ guy. There are some things that I felt like defensively he could be a little bit better, or sometimes on offense he doesn't even bring up the ball, things like that as well too. So that's where I feel about it.
Well, here's what I was just going to ask you is, compared to expectations, how would you say he's been, right? Because a lot of the stuff you're saying, like the defense, it's well, I kind of thought that would happen,
Yes.
And so what about versus where you were if we were just to rewind 2 months?
That's a really good question. Even. I think you and I had more rational opinions about this. We're fans, but we're not fanatics. We are able to look at this thing through a different lens. This is what we do for our jobs. I thought Tyus Jones would be this good. And so he's had moments where he's been better than that, and he's had moments where he's been worse than that, but that's not his fault because he's been asked to do things that he's not supposed to do. So that's why I say right in the middle. I think he's a high B+ guy.
Yeah.
What about you? Didn't you think he'd be just this good, or did you think he might even be better, or was he worse in some instances?
So I think the biggest thing that's been different than what I thought is the way he's been used. Like you just hit on at the very tail end of what you said of the fact that, and that's why I keyed into it so quickly and made that point about like the security blanket aspect of it more so than actually playing like, some kind of John Stockton out there. It's no surprise to me that he's jacking. He's averaging a career high by a mile in threes attempted per game, and that's because he's on a team that wants to jack threes, but even though he is technically the point guard, the ball is just not in his hands constantly. And so that's been the biggest surprise, is that he is kind of being used as like, I don't even know what a good comp would be. More of like, kind of how Mike Conley is used in Minnesota, maybe is one way to put it, where he's there to engineer certain possessions when needed, but the ball is going to be in Ant's and Cat and Randall's hands a lot, and this is sort of a similar dynamic. So that's been different. I don't know if I really put that as a negative on him. It's just been a surprise, but I'll go with a straight B, maybe a little lower than where you're at. But I look forward to kind of seeing what his role really is with everybody, because I echo exactly what you're saying. I have an interesting stat, one last one, because there was just a lot of interesting stuff as I was digging through this that I think kind of illustrates the weird role he's in. So he actually has, in terms of just like how many passes a player makes per game, that's kind of a weird stat, but he is like top 10 in the whole NBA. He's basically even with LeBron. Honestly, DeJounte Murray's on here. He played a grand total of 1 game, so bump Tyus up even another one from there. He's above Jason Tatum and Jalen Brunson and James Harden. Like, he has been an engine. But within the Suns, another stat that the NBA tracks with passing is potential assists. Those shots where you delivered it to an open teammate and they just missed, but they could have made it, Tyus is actually behind Booker in that stat. He is actually making a ton of passes per game. He's making significantly more passes per game than Booker is, by 20 plus. But in terms of assists, he's behind Booker, which means he is setting the table and spacing the floor. Very like that Jeff Teague stuff we talked about preseason. And he's just kind of one of the pieces. So it's a unique way of playing, and that makes it hard to grade for me. But I'll go with a straight B, like 85 or something if I had to.
That's almost like a luck stat. He's just been really unlucky, and some of that is there haven't been guys on the floor. That is interesting. I also feel bad for the intern that has to count everyone's potential passes or everyone's passes. That is crazy. Yeah.
Well, and some of that, like the pure passes is tracking is the cameras on the hoops, but the potential assists, that might be like a human who has to grade out, was that guy in position to actually
intern
make a shot. I don't know.
I don't
we
need to make some statistics illegal. That is so stupid. It's so stupid, but whatever.
That kid deserves to be promoted to some team or league office position very shortly, because he is doing the Lord's work. All right. B for me, B+ for Ben. Let's talk through the first round pick. Ryan Dunn started off, could not have been higher on him. Come back down to earth like everybody we've talked about a little bit. Where do we land? Somewhere in the middle. What's fair? We'll give our grades on Dunn next. First, today's show is brought to you by Skims. When I found out Skims was making underwear for men, I have to admit, I was pretty excited. I've seen it on the women's side for a while. I know the WNBA did a deal. We've all seen Kim Kardashian talking about it, promoting it. It's her company for a while. And look, the stuff looks soft. It looks pretty nice. And I'm here to tell you it absolutely is. It honestly, I've been thinking about it because we've been talking about Skims a bunch and they sent me some stuff to wear. It feels like workout underwear, but it's not. It's like the type of material that is so like flexible and soft that usually you're like, oh, that's like to be bendable and all that stuff when you're like jogging or doing whatever. No, it is for everyday use, but it is that level of quality and comfort, and that's what makes it awesome. They have a ton of different styles and sizes for whatever fits you, whatever you're used to. They'll have an option for you, but they're all going to have that same softness, that same flexibility, breathability, and good look. So shop Skims Men at skims.com/LockedOnNBA and let them know we sent you. After you place that order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. Of course, that is Locked On Suns. And if you're looking for the perfect gift for the whole family, Skims just launched their biggest holiday shop ever. Also available at skims.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, let's wrap it up. Don't forget to sign up for the Locked On Suns Daily newsletter if you haven't already. Click that link in the show description below or type in Locked On Daily in your browser, lockedondaily.com, of course. Click the Suns logo, type your email address in, support the show, get great Suns analysis, NBA analysis into your inbox every single day, and, of course, stay up to date with every episode of the podcast. All right, Ben, Ryan Dunn. Suns trade back to get him. Preseason goes as well as it possibly can. He's the hero of that overtime Lakers game. And he starts games right away in his NBA career. Plays heavy minutes, all this stuff. I feel like I'm already thinking about the A range. I don't know how you could go low on this guy. I mean, we thought he might not play.
I'm so upset with you because I thought your ranking was going to be lower than mine. Okay, well, I'll let you go second because I need to go first.
It's all you. You can sing his praises, but I'm just saying it feels unfair to go any lower than that.
I thought Ryan Dunn was so. Okay. How do I do this? How do I word this delicately? I still think Ryan Dunn is going to be good. He hasn't been as good as I thought because that's why I said I'm going to be lower than you. I was much higher on everyone else than Ryan Dunn. I had championed this. I have the receipts. I did this on the radio waves for not for months, more like weeks on Ryan Dunn. And the 3-point shot has came and gone. And I thought it was going to be a little bit better. I drank the Kool-Aid a little too early into the season. He's still awesome. I think he is still a hit. I'd say he's almost an A. If I was like, again, percentages, like an 88, 89%. Because of where my expectations were. Maybe they were a little unrealistic. I think he can still get there. He's been a tremendous defender, and he's been an amazing, off-the-bench spark. But there have been some moments where Budenholzer hasn't really trusted him completely, and we've seen that in stretches where they take him out of games, completely just rip him out of games. He doesn't play for long stretches. And the 3-point shot is fine. I just wish it was a little bit more consistent. And I think that is on Budenholzer, not Dunn, for not putting him in more, because that confidence is such a thing for Ryan Dunn that he has just been awesome with. Like, if we were grading him and Oso, I think Oso's been better than I expected, and Ryan Dunn has been just a little worse than I expected, but that's because my expectations were way up here, and instead they're he has landed right here instead of all the way down here. So I think he's been great. I just thought it'd be a little bit more is all.
Absolutely fair. I actually have tape of you. I prepared it of you saying he's going to win Rookie of the Year. We'll play that right now. I'm just kidding. I don't have anything. But look, I think that expectations is all of it, and I hear you. I think a lot of Suns fans were very excited, but I think everybody, if they're being honest with themselves, this guy is still the 28th overall pick. And if we're looking at that as the baseline, that as the expectations, I mean, I don't know how you could be anything other than thrilled. 28th overall pick in 2023, Bryce Sensabaugh. I'm not sure what he's up to. Haven't heard his name. I don't even know what he's doing in the NBA. Patrick Baldwin Jr. was the year before that. He already got traded to the Wizards in the Chris Paul deal with the Warriors, and I don't think he's even playing in Washington. 2021, Jaden Springer. That's the kid that got cut by the Sixers. He plays in Boston now in their G League team. And the year before that, it was Jaden McDaniels. So, okay, we finally landed on one that panned out 4 years ago. Right? So I just look at that and I'm like, those are guys I don't even know where their NBA career has taken them, and they're still on their rookie contracts. Ryan Dunn doing anything in the first 20 games of his NBA career was always going to be massive. And so I think it's very good. I look at defensive field goal percentage allowed, NBA.com, another tracking stat, 42%. Now, that data is very noisy because it can be a shot where he just happens to swing his arm up and he's the closest dude to an open three-point shooter. It can include everything from that to an ISO against LeBron. So but 42%, that's pretty good. And yes, the three-point shot has kind of come and gone, but he's still at 33%. He's only had a couple of really, really ugly games, and he's chipping in other ways as an offensive rebounder. He kind of, knows where to make the pass. He gets scoring in transition if he needs to. I just think once he is back down to playing 10 to 15 minutes and not being needed to win, I think we're going to go back to feeling very, very good and remembering, holy crap, we got this dude in the late first round, and he's playing for us. Like, that is about as good as it gets for me. So I'm going to go, I won't go A+, because I hear your points, and I've said a lot of the same things as we've gone game by game, but I'll go A-. I'll go A-.
I would agree with you on that latter part of the statement that when he's not, and I've mentioned this before too, so I'm happy you said that so that I can back myself up here a little bit. Once you ask Ryan Dunn to be your third best offensive player, fourth offensive player, when all these guys are out, that really hurts him and puts way too much pressure on him. Where when all those guys were healthy, he was like the seventh or eighth best scorer on this team, maybe even lower. And that made him that much more of a threat. So I'm going to echo that from you as well and make myself feel a little bit better. But just all in all, it is like when people listen to these rankings and they get upset, or these grades and they get upset, like we're kind of doing an impossible job here where we've seen two Phoenix Suns teams, the 5-6 game win streak and then the 5 or whatever 6 game losing streak with this team. And we talked about that last week. So we're kind of grading two different teams here, two sets of players. Ultimately, when everyone comes back tomorrow, everything is going to be a lot better, and people will stop bleeping and moaning, and it'll be good.
It does seem like Dunn clearly has the arrow pointed up the rest of the season just by being a rookie, right? Whereas I guess I would say, the coach is a weird one to throw in there, but I would say like Tyus could be arrow pointed down. Like he just might not be as needed when this team is healthy. Like you've talked about the death lineup thing. That doesn't even have Tyus in it. It does have Dunn in it, most likely. So I could see us being higher on Dunn and actually lower on Tyus if we were to circle back like in another month or two.
Really quickly, 15 seconds since he's a newcomer as well. Oso Ighodaro, would we both say he's been 10 times as good as we both thought, which we still think it's like we were just like down here and we're like up here now.
I actually would feel a little differently. I know I just made the whole rant about him being the 40th overall, about 28th overall pick for Dunn and Oso being 40th. I have to give him the same grace there. But again, with that expectations versus reality thing, I feel like Oso's kind of he's impacted the game in the ways that I would think, and he's been limited in the ways that I would think. Obviously, any rookie making an impact at all, like I just said with Dunn, you got to give him a pat on the back. So it's not like I'm going to give him an F, but probably like a B-.
Okay, that's where I would be.
C+.
That's where I would be. No, not a C+. He's been at times better than Yusuf Nurkic. He's been at times the best big man on this team. Now that's the worst position group of this team.
He's matchup dependent, but there's been games where he's been the best one.
Yeah, and I think that is now. I don't think he's going to be a playoff rotational piece. Easy there, everydayers, but he has been a lot better than I thought, and that's all you can ask for. Man, you want to talk about just getting someone that's playable and potentially the 8th best player on this team next year? Yeah, I'll take that. I will take that every single time. Every single time. If you told me I had to pick a mystery box or that guy in the second round, that guy. Every single time. So, really good stuff.
The draft has certainly aged well. James Jones deserves a little, ceremonial A here for what he did. Honestly, all these moves were him. All the newcomers, that's kind of the GM's job. So I guess he gets a pat on the back here as well. All right, enjoy the Lakers game, everybody. Let's all cross our fingers for a good outcome. We'll be back with you after the game from Footprint Center with a reaction to the game late at night. So hit follow or subscribe. Get that in your feed when it's there. We'll have more shows throughout the week. Enjoy your Tuesday, and we'll talk to you then.